Once you find yourself in conflict with a narcissist, it's a virtual guarantee they're going to start playing head games with you. That's why I put together a new course. It's very extensive called Anger Games. I'm going to teach you how to manage anger and conflict with a narcissist. There's a link below that's going to show you how to register, and I hope that you find it to be very insightful. Those of you who've had long-term exposure to a strongly narcissistic person will almost inevitably arrive at a question that anybody in your situation would ask. And that is, when you've been exposed to so much of their dysfunction, there comes a time when you say, is it time for me to disconnect from this person? Now, obviously, there are so many variables that go into it because no person's set of circumstances is the exact same. But I think we need to realize that you just simply can't work with someone who has a strong character disorder. That's not the same as a mood disorder. These individuals have so much pathology baked into who they are that they can hardly stop themselves from being what they are. So in order to help you answer that question, is it time for you to disconnect? What I want to do is I'm going to give you 12 questions that I want you to ponder, and then I'm going to break it down further and let you see what's going on with that narcissist. And then we're going to ask, what do we need to do for you to respond to that? Now, let me run through the questions here, and I just want you to make some personal checklist, if you will. The first question is, do you get the idea that the narcissist has a fixed agenda for you in so many circumstances? Number two, when you differ, does the narcissist insist that you must conform to their opinions or preferences? Number three, as you reveal your opinions and preferences, are you discounted for your differences? Number four, have you endured hateful and demeaning comments or insults or foul delivery of displeasure from that person? That's a big one. Number five, do you often feel that you have to measure your words or your choices very carefully? Number six, do you notice major gaps between what that narcissist says and what they actually do? Number seven, are you drawn into futile and circulative arguments? Sometimes you just go on and nothing ever gets accomplished, and yet it just keeps happening. Number eight, does the narcissist's anger turn really ugly to the point where it's very destructive and contempt-laced? Number nine, have you learned that the narcissist sabotages you and your reputation behind your back? Number 10, have you felt exploited, used, or manipulated by this individual? Number 11, does the narcissist keep secrets easily and act evasively? And then number 12, have you felt that your personal boundaries and beliefs and standards have been consistently violated? Now, every single one of these by themselves can be room for dismissal, if you will, or reason for dismissal. But if you're able to answer in the affirmative on most of these questions that I just asked, you're in trouble. And there's something that's dreadfully wrong there, and you've got to figure out what's going on so that you can make plans so that because you don't deserve this. You need a better life than this. Now, like I say, you're not going to be able to change a character disorder in somebody who's just fixed on these kind of characteristics. But I want you to kind of get an idea of what are you dealing with here? Who is this person who's treating you in this way? What kind of qualities do they have that you need to be aware of and just be honest about? Now, there are multiple ingredients that set the narcissist and their relationships up to fail that these people carry into the relationship with you. Let's run through some of those. First, let's keep in mind when you are engaging with a narcissist, you're also engaging with someone who is wearing a mask. Do you understand that? That person is not in touch with his or her real self. They have a shadow self underneath. That's all a part of them that they don't want to look at. Their fears and their hurt and their pain and their anger and all of their disillusionment. They don't want to do that. They want to try to present an image that says, I'm good, I'm okay. And when you have someone who's wearing a mask like that, they're not going to get very far at all in terms of any kind of growth. If by chance the mask does come off, because sometimes you may see something that they know that you know, or it may be that in a moment of, let's say, weakness, that's what they'll call it, or perhaps vulnerability, they may share something with you. If the mask does come off, they're going to put that mask right back on because it scares them to death. Your desire to get on the inside with them and have a form of intimacy or closeness and honesty and vulnerability is something that they run from. They cannot deal with it. Now, we're going to go a little bit further and we're going to say that you're dealing with emotionally needy individual, but their emotional neediness is typically displayed via messages of control. The reason they're so bossy and so forceful and so insistent, it's their way of saying, you need to make me feel better. You mean to make me look good. You need to validate me. You need to affirm me. But that's their neediness. It comes out as control. But these are people who are pathologically insecure. These individuals, because of their unwillingness to examine themselves, are dedicated, if you will, to manipulations. They'll ask you cornering questions. They'll put guilt trips on you. They'll openly express, doubt about your way of thinking. Where'd you come up with an idea like this? Anything that they can do to gaslight you and make you feel doubt about who you are, it's a go-to technique, if you will, that they'll just very predictably utilize. Likewise, these people, their reasoning easily collapses. And when I say their reasoning collapses, you'll notice that if you say something that makes sense, like you seem to be very upset with me, or this doesn't really make sense, or this is not what you told me yesterday, they'll drop the reasoning and they'll go straight into raw emotion. Because they fear, well, actually it's a subconscious thing by now, but they know that when they go into raw emotion, that just takes the focus off of reason and logic. And so they can get upset or anxious or anxiety ridden and put guilt trips on you. And that's one of their games that they play. Let's play the emotional game so that we don't have to look at the truth. In addition, they don't just have anger issues. I mean, yes, they do. They're completely inept when it comes to managing anger. And anger is an emotion that, if it's managed correctly, can cause us to sit down and say, I want to assert my needs with you and you can do the same with me. Let's get it out there. Let's be honest with each other so that we can have healing. But their anger is not only not healing, it almost inevitably becomes destructive. And the more episodes you have, it just whittles away at the integrity of the relationship. Narcissists lack an us mentality. You've heard it said that narcissism is partially defined by a lack of empathy, and it's so on display the longer you're with them. They don't want to know who you are because that implies that they would consider you an equal. That implies an emotional heart connection. They, don't want to do that because they consider that giving up their power, and B, they don't know how to do it in the first place because it's something that it's a skill they've never learned. They don't care to learn. They're too entitled to worry about what you're thinking. It's just all about me. And then you're also dealing with individuals who operate with what I call psychological laziness. They don't want to take time to think things through. Many of them hardly even have the ability to think analytically, but even if they do, it's like, nah, that's for you, that's not for me. And then, of course, as I mentioned in the questions, they have an incredibly low regard for personal boundaries. It's all about me intruding on you, and I don't care what I have to do. I'm getting in your space, and I'm running the show. It's frustrating, isn't it? Because you want to be free. You want to be your own person. And this narcissist says, no, you be what I tell you to be. So there comes a time when you ask that question, is it just time for me to disconnect? That I'm going to see if we can figure out, what that means. Some of you just need to completely get away and never see that person again. Sometimes it's not possible because of extraneous circumstances. But let's take a look at what this disconnect might require. Now, the first thing that I would teach my patients when I would be in my therapy office with them is you want to start with what I call a mind over emotion mindset. On the emotional side, you can ask, what am I feeling? And what do I wish for? And what is my desire? But then when we say mind over emotion, there comes a point where you just say, what do the hard facts tell me? Not what do I feel? What do I wish for? What do the hard facts tell me? Then as you detach, you also want to remind yourself that you just need to go ahead and cease the attempt to try to make the narcissist understand and know you. They don't care about you. They don't care about your opinions. They don't care about your values. Drop it. It's not going to matter. That's part of your disconnect. In addition, as part of you disconnecting, rather than filtering who you are through that person's grid, remember I mentioned that agenda, ask yourself, well, what's my idea of a good, healthy personality? And what are my preferences and opinions? And stick with that. And get used to the idea that this person is not going to be on your inner circle. You want them to be, perhaps. That's probably why it's such a big deal. They won't. But then drop your need to justify. Drop your need to explain. Drop your need to rationalize why it's okay for you to be who you are. You've already tried it. It doesn't work. As much as possible, stay physically away. And then you want to focus on the seminal question, what do I believe is wisest? And it may be wise that you keep things very minimal and we go into this gray rock and very minimalist kind of response to them. Or sometimes it's like, I just need to get this person out of my life entirely. And if it has a certain cost that goes with it, sometimes I may just have to absorb that cost and go on. Now, the narcissist, when they know that you're thinking this way, they're going to register and they're going to say they're displeased in one form or another. They're going to let you know they're displeased with your willingness to disconnect. And you're going to let it be known. Yes, I realize you're displeased. What that tells me is we're not a good match. And so I'm going to save both of us the aggravation, and I need to move on with my life, and I need to do it without your influence in it. So whatever form that is, I'm hoping that you can decide what that's going to be. But the bottom line is you'll need to take charge of your own life, because if you don't, the narcissist is more than happy to say, well, I'll take charge of it, and it's not going to end well. Now, I hope that this gives you some good food for thought. I know this is a hard topic for many of you, and you've pondered this many times over. There's different forms of disconnect. I get it. If you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do so. We're going to keep more videos coming to you, and I'm going to introduce many different angles for you to think about. Many times when you're going through something like this, you need the help of a skilled and seasoned therapist. You know, I've been sponsored for years by the people at BetterHelp.com. There's a whole team of licensed professional therapists. They're there waiting for you. There's a link below this video that will show you how you can get through to their services. It can be so helpful for somebody to objectively sit down with you, help you figure it out, what's going on, what's happening inside of you, what adjustments do you need to make. Get the help that you need if that's there. And in the case like this, it's probably pretty strong. Likewise, I have my courses. Excuse me. I have my courses, and they're my therapist mindset way of trying to teach you. I'm not in my practice anymore, but it's my way of bringing my therapeutic intervention to you. Each course has at least 25 videos with teaching documents and guided questions. We have my brand new one called Anger Games, and I'm really pleased with that one. And that would be a good one for you, along with This Is Me about establishing boundaries, Free to Be, Ready, Set, Connect about making healthy connections. So we have plenty of courses there. They're available on our website. Along with that, we also have webinars that I presented that are 90-minute presentations, quite a bit different from the courses. And then we have access to my podcast, many articles, my books, plenty of resources. The reason I talk about these kind of topics is because I know that there are people that are hurting. You're not alone. There are many people who are in the same boat as you. And at some point, it's like, here we call ourselves Team Healthy. We need to pull together and remind ourselves there's a good way of life out there, and it doesn't include staying attached to people who are poison and toxic. So that's why I'm prompting you to take a hard look at this. I'm hoping you can have a life that says, I want to live with peace. I want to live with dignity and steadiness. And in doing so, it may require you to make some major adjustments, but indeed, I do hope that you are going to be committed to being that person, truly committed to peace.